overall as well, speaking of domestic growth, you see the Philippines is still as one of the faster growing economies in Southeast Asia, only second to Vietnam. In fact, you hiked your forecast to 5.6 to 6.2%. But even at that, that's still going to be below government targets of 7 to 9%. Why do you see us falling short of that target, and what's it going to take for us to get there?
Yeah, as you say, the Philippines economy looks pretty good right now. That the current growth looks quite healthy. One of my main concerns about the Philippine economy and why we still are a little bit conservative in terms of our outlook is that as a result of the really sharp downturn in the economy when the pandemic hit, you may know that aside from India, across all of the Asia Pacific region, no country got hurt more than the Philippines, given the depth and length of the economic shutdowns in the country. And my concern is that a lot of small and medium-sized enterprises just simply aren't going to be able to get back on their feet, won't be able to start up and operate even in a more solid economic environment. Now, there are some upsides to this. One is that credit conditions look pretty good. Capital positions of banks in the Philippines are fairly strong. Much depends on the willingness to lend to small industries. If that liquidity is there, then small enterprises may come back faster than perhaps I may have expected. The second impact is from international travel. Of course, a really important component of the Philippine economy is spending by international travelers in the Philippines. I still think that the turnaround, the recovery of international travel may be a little bit slower than what others might expect, simply because of in a sense, the roadblocks that are put in front of travelers if they're crossing boundaries in terms of having to have all of the proper paperwork in place and the pre-testing and post-testing and any quarantines that may be required, that travelers from places like Australia, the US, Europe, may be just more willing to travel domestically rather than cross borders for a while until things really open up. And finally, we don't really know when travelers from China will arrive in the Philippines again. And the arrivals from China are very, very important, not only in terms of the numbers of arrivals that the Philippines was used to prior to the pandemic, but also the elevated spending that Chinese tourists generally engage in that support the Philippine economy when they're in the Philippines. So that's still very uncertain. It could be next year, really, before the Chinese are allowed to freely travel abroad.
Other than tourism, of course, much of that growth for the country still depends on who will be elected as the next president here. It's going to be a crucial juncture here for the country. What's at stake here, and what should at least be on the economic agenda of the next administration?
Well, the next administration will have to look at some of these issues that I pointed out, particularly small and medium-sized enterprises, making sure that there is liquidity for them when they need it. I think also linked to that is the need for additional training, retraining, upskilling of the labor force that maybe have been out of work for a year or two or more, and address that and try to upskill the labor force towards the kinds of industries that will be growing very strongly going forward. And then another aspect of policy, I think, will simply be infrastructure development. Prior to the pandemic, the infrastructure program of the administration was very important, both in terms of direct impact on the economy from construction, and in terms of the potential impact longer term of just improving productivity as transportation links and such are easier around the country. And I think there's a lot of potential for the need for continued investment in infrastructure in the Philippines, just to bring the productivity growth of the Philippines up with some of its peers in Southeast Asia.